All right, everybody, we're back with questions for the Trap Talk podcast. As always, email us at askus@traptalkpodcast.com. And let's get right into the questions, guys. I have a question for Zach and Ricky. I am fairly solid shooter, but I tend to miss early in events. Do you guys have any advice or tips to get through the first 10 or 20 targets in an event? Thank you so much, Colton Manning. So
good question.
I think maybe, yeah, that's a good question.
For me, missing early, I've done it quite a bit. It's one of those, just making sure you're ready. When you walk up, of course, I'm squad leader. I'm always, squad ready, puller ready. Let's see one. Now, in that sense, it shouldn't just throw the gun up. A lot of people do that. They try to just start and go. You want to make sure when you mount that gun, everything's ready. Take a split second and then go. Now, as you progress along in the event, sometimes I'll speed up, slow down, different things. But all in all, it's up here. If you're thinking about it now, that could be the other thing that, and Colton didn't say that, is he thinking about, is he missing a lot early? If that's the case, then he's got a mental block going on with he's talking himself subconsciously into negative areas.
Or maybe some of the nerves, like the nerves coming into the event. Sometimes we have nerves when we first start.
Yep. I agree with Rick 100% on this one. There's two reasons. One, mental, which we just discovered, and we can go into that a little bit. But two, physical. So my feeling, if we're going down the physical road, is what happens is when we start that first event, whether it's singles, doubles, or handicap, that first target of the day, our eyes aren't necessarily awake yet. We're not moving the gun yet. We haven't moved the gun on a target, right? So what ends up happening is you mount the gun, you call pull, and then the flash comes out. You see it, it spooks you, and then you throw the gas on it. So more times than not, when I'm seeing people miss early in an event, it's because the target startled them, they didn't get a good lock on it, and they threw the gun over the top of the target. They'll usually stop, lift their head, shoot behind. It's a very, very common mistake. So I think what Ricky said about slowing down, excellent advice, because you want to really make sure you see that target well on those first few shots, and you want to really make sure you stay with the gun. So I almost call it exaggeratedly doing everything more than when I'm warmed up. I'm really making sure I'm on the gun. I'm really making sure I'm seeing the target. Those first 5 shots is where my body's warming up, and I feel like, especially in singles, everything's going a little bit slower those first 5 or 10 shots. And then once I get moving and I get going, well, then I start breaking the targets where I naturally feel comfortable. But the eyes got to turn on, the reflexes got to turn on.
Well,
on that mental side, if you're going out there and you're like, oh crap, the event started and I'm shaking, well, then that's just your thoughts and it's not a physical standpoint. But one thing Dave Kelly taught me, and it was really helpful, if you're having a lot of trouble in the morning and your eyes aren't awake and you consistently keep missing and you need to start building your confidence, if you want, go out and shoot a practice round. Go out and shoot a couple shots to get the gun moving in the morning. Yeah. If you're having trouble there, there's nothing that says you can't do that.
Hey, backing up to that, at Tucson, we were second squad out in the morning. Did you shoot a practice, Zach?
I did.
So I did too. Justin and I went out at like 8:05, and I'm like, man, these targets are going to be tough to see.
Well, yeah.
I shot practice, and I broke 19, and there were some targets. I'm like, my eyes were still trying to wake up.
Yeah.
And then, boom, we shot after we were done, we shot within an hour of that, and it helped. I missed 6 at the practice and 4 in the event. But going back to Colton's question, if he's missing a lot of, did he say singles or was it just
early?
He was just saying more just early in the event, the first 10, 20 targets. I think he's feeling a little, maybe not warmed up like Zach's saying.
Yeah. So no matter what event, I think without having him on the show and trying to read his mind is he's thinking about the total score. And that's what a lot of shooters are doing. Yeah. They're thinking about, they go out there like, oh man, it's a nice day. I got to break 100 today.
Yep.
Right.
It's one or the other. It's either physical or it's mental. Well, If it's not, it could be both. Yeah, it could be both, and then you're really a mess. Then you need to call RM Junior Shooting Clinics. But what I know is, I think that if you're not feeling those nerves, then I would say it's those first things of getting lubed up in the morning. And when I say that, I don't mean like morning drinking or anything like that. I mean get your muscles stretched out. Get that. I watch Ricky Marshall. He's doing those gun lifts, and he's stretching out and getting ready. And
I stretch my back out and try to get as loose as possible, and you relax. That's the number one thing. And I say it to all my students and everybody I run into: have fun. If you can get that mental, now this is a competition, but if you can make it fun, it mentally becomes a little easier. Okay?
Yeah. Well, there's something in sports psychology too, which is, you can turn your nervousness into excitement. Because there's two ways you can look at those butterflies, right? I'm nervous. Oh my gosh, how's this going to go? Or you can be like, I'm excited. I'm pumped. Let's get this thing going. It's the same physical feeling, but you have to change your mindset, right?
Correct.
You have to look at it in the right way. And I remember a shooter when I started coming up, Joe Dillard, he used to say, you don't miss the first target, you don't miss the last target. And what he was really trying to say to me was like, if you're not ready, you don't pull the trigger on the first bird, and you're not done until you're done, right? You have to be in it. And so, especially if you're squad leader, there's a little bit more on your plate. But on those first 5 birds, especially if you haven't shot a warm-up, you're going to need to remind yourself of those mechanics. See the target, stay in the gun, head on the stop.
Very methodical, those first 5, where you're doing everything and you're making sure everything's right. I really go through that checklist early on in an event, especially in the singles. I think people tend to miss a singles target because they throw their hands over it. They throw their body over it. They whip at it, right? If you just accept that you've got a lot of time on that target, wherever it comes out at the 16-yard line, and you make a nice clean move to it and you keep your head on the gun, more times than not, you're going to break it. And then as you warm up, those breaks are going to start coming into your natural zone. But I find my breaks are a little bit higher, a little bit more out generally on those first few shots if I'm not moving the gun well. I'm not just going to shoot it when I think it's right if the gun's not there. That's that trigger control that Ricky teaches. So
and sometimes your cheek's not warmed up yet, right? You're moving the gun in there, and as the event goes on, it gets deeper and more set. And then I remember on the championship singles in Tucson, I was thinking maybe today is the day I pop that 200. That was the perfect thing to be thinking before I missed my first bird out, right?
There you go. don't think that, people.
You can't think
Why am I thinking about 200? I just need to clear 1 bird, right? So I think you have to remind yourself at the beginning.
I'd say the only time you can even think about 200 that it's not going to mess you up too bad is on the very last one if you're 199 straight. But even then, I would just be focused on the one target.
Exactly.
Yeah, right. Yeah, well, we want to thank Colton Manning for the question. Guys, keep sending them in. As always, ask us at traptalkpodcast.com, and we'll get these 2 guys to answer your questions. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.